Hey, what's up, my fellow cinephiles? I'm Jay Feezy. This is Feezy's Media, and welcome. This is the spoiler discussion on the Odyssey. You know, that one movie directed by that one guy who did the Dark Knight, Christian Bale movies, based on that one book by some guy named Homer. Not traditional classic tale by Homer, but yeah, of course, we're going to be discussing Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey here. Spoiler discussion again. Spoiler. So if you have not seen the movie yet, go check it out in 70 millimeter IMAX if you can. If not, any way possible, and then come back and check this out. Or if you don't care and you just are interested in hearing our thoughts on the movie, welcome. Thank you for sacrificing spoilers to watch this. I appreciate your time and appreciate everyone checking this out with me again. As usual, or at least when he's able to make it, I have Gio, the Movie Canon. Good sir, thank you for joining me again. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Feezy. Thank you again for inviting me for yet another That One Movie episode, talking about what I find to be one of the top films of 2026. And we'll see if you agree with me on that. But thank you for inviting me yet again. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's always a pleasure having you, man. We always get in some good discussions here, as well as some of my other guests too. And usually I try to get in others where I can, but it's always a schedule thing, right? So even this this episode here, this discussion, I meant to have a couple of weeks ago, but as of this recording, it's the August 5th, 2026. So yeah, I saw the movie on July 19th. And you were telling me before we started recording that you also had seen it a little bit ago. So you saw it actually opening night, right? Thursday. What was that?
The 16th of July.
The 16th. Yep. Yeah. So I saw it the following Sunday in IMAX 70 millimeter. I'm fortunate to live by one of those locations that is showing the movie in the intentional way that Nolan wanted, right? That like the intended way, I should say. Yeah, we have all those memes going around now where people are like, the way Nolan intended. They just have like their cameras on the wall, or just like, their iPhones or their cell phones posted up somewhere. So yeah, we're only 41 theaters worldwide, right? That are able to show the movie or movies in 70 millimeter, right? Is that right? Did I get that number right? It's 41.
Yeah, I think it's 40 or 41. You might be right about 41, but I know it's at least. I think it's again between 40 or 41, and I'm actually kind of close to 3 of those theaters. One of them is like really close, like just minutes away. The other one's in Universal City Walk, and then the other one's in Orange County, so that's maybe like an hour away from each other or so. So I'm pretty close to one. And even with that, I still didn't watch it in 70 millimeter IMAX because I wasn't able to get the tickets because those tickets went up for sale a year in advance, which I've never seen.
Yeah,
I don't think ever. So I didn't secure those tickets.
Yeah, that was crazy. Yeah, and I missed those initial tickets for that initial showing. Then I noticed it was only like one showing each day for I forget how many weeks. And then I realized, okay, you know what? They're probably going to release more as we get down, because it only makes sense, right? It doesn't make sense for them to have only one showing per day. So, and sure enough, yeah, when they released it, I almost missed that. But sure enough, later on when they released it, the movie had more show times for IMAX and 70 millimeter. I jumped on those tickets, and I almost missed it. I was able to grab some decent seats for Sunday showing. That's why I got it Sunday. Also, I would have got it sooner. I just had forgot to set my calendar, so it's my fault, but I still was able to go see it. So again, I was fortunate enough to be able to have that luxury to see it nearby. And yeah, there's 2 up in Northern California where I'm at, so I know there's it sounds like a good amount of them are in California.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But no, thanks again, Gio. Looking forward to this discussion, man, because like you before we recorded, I know you had mentioned you saw, like you already mentioned, you saw this movie favorably than I did, and so definitely gonna have some different takes on here. But let's go ahead and jump right into it. So like I said, The Odyssey, written and directed by Christopher Nolan, and of course it's based on the classic tale by Homer, so the Odyssey of the same name. That is a sequel to the Iliad. And again, here preface, just be upfront about this. I've never read either book, Iliad or the Odyssey. I've only known them for the movies, and here and there, just people talking about them and reading about them, like footnotes, summaries. and then through other medium or through other adaptations, which we'll get into later. Actually, there's two others I want to compare this to, this movie being the Odyssey, to two other adaptations. And so one of them I almost forgot about, but yeah. So I just wanted to say I'm coming at this, my overview, my thoughts, as just strictly a moviegoer, right? I have not read, like I said, read the books. I'm not familiar with those, so this is just solely based on the film itself as is. So cinematographer Hoytema, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Apologies if I'm not. Composed by Ludwig Göransson. Some of you may know, he recognize his name from the Mandalorian show. He did some of the score for that, as well as Sinners, right? I'm pretty sure, yeah, I did for Sinners as well, right? So I'm sure you've all seen his name at some point, or a lot of you are more familiar with that composer. And so, yep, Nolan hired him to do the score and the music for this movie as well. Runtime is a little over around 2 hours and 50 minutes. So yeah, we'll touch on that in a little bit here. So I wanted to kind of add this in here, just kind of see where it's at, because it is making headlines because of its earnings. So as of today, this recording, August 5th, domestically, it has earned $414 million domestically. Globally, just under $931 million. So it's inching its way to that $1 billion mark globally. So it is making money. A lot of people are going to see this, and for a good reason. A lot of hype, a lot of word of mouth here on this one. So yeah, definitely getting its money in earning its money in return for what was spent on it. So I mentioned, I saw it on the 19th, and I think Gio had mentioned this earlier already, but first film to be shot entirely in 70 millimeter IMAX camera on film, right? And the actual 70 millimeter film. Christopher Nolan did some movies previously on that format, but it was only certain scenes, and other movies have shot in that as well, like Sinners, again, for example, that was also 70 millimeter on certain scenes. But this is the first shot entirely on that medium, which is incredible, which is a feat in itself, right? I'm just really impressed that Nolan was determined to just go out and do that, and he achieved it, and it came out, I want to say it came out really, really well. Not without its issues though, right? So I think from what I was reading, one of the reasons a lot of filmmakers don't shoot in 70 millimeter with those cameras, for one, is because they're big, but they're also loud. So come to find out that using that camera just ended up being really loud. And so to help mitigate the sound, Nolan worked with IMAX to develop this blimp. I believe it's called a blimp. It's like this housing that would go around your standard IMAX camera, and they ended up naming it the Keeley, I believe it is, right, to kind of muffle some of the sound. And so yeah, I do have some. Let me zoom over here. So this is this photo here. This is the camera that they ended up using with the blimp surrounding it. So it's huge. I mean, if you can't tell, it ended up being huge. But one of the problems with that is that because it was so huge, it kind of created a barrier between actors when they were doing up close dialogue scenes. And so you see here, I have on the photo, one of the photos here that I'm showing currently, there's a scene between John Bernthal and Tom Holland, their characters. They had to use these mirrors and put them in front of the camera to allow the characters to kind of talk into the reflections of the other actor or actress, right? So you can kind of see here, John Bernthal's looking into a mirror, so then he can see Tom Holland's reflection in this scene specifically. And this was done in other scenes as well, but yeah, it's just because it was so big. So that gives you an idea of just how massive the camera is, and some idea of the sound, right? Just how loud it was that they had to use this blimp in order to cover it, which in turn made it large. So yeah, it was just really, really interesting and really cool to hear that Nolan was just willing to go through those feats to get this done, and how determined, persistent he was to make sure he wanted to get this done in 70 millimeter. So which actually sets the bar, right? It allows hopefully other directors to then use this format to do the same. Although I can only imagine how expensive it is. That film alone, I mean, the film stock that used the 70 millimeter film would be expensive. And then also, from what I've been reading, that it only, like the magazines, I think they call them, of the film that they have to load into the camera, only last about 3 minutes. And so the actual footage that they had to record was only about 2.5 minutes worth. I'm a presume allowing for some buffer at the beginning and end. So each of those recording sessions of the camera only had to be up to around like 2.5 to 45, I'm guessing, minutes. So yeah, that also added another challenge in that. Did you hear about any of that, Gio?
I did hear something about that, and I think I remember reading. Now, don't quote me because I read it somewhere, but I may have gotten some of the
Okay.
information maybe not completely accurate. But uh, I remember reading something about that Tom Holland thought that he thought that Christopher Nolan didn't like his acting because when they
Oh
started
yeah.
filming,
Yeah.
within 3 minutes, Christopher Nolan said cut,
Yeah.
and I guess he thought that he didn't like his performance, like his because he did it like right away. So it
His
was
take.
kind of
Yeah.
like, yeah, his take, yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess he thought, was like, what happened? Because it's
Yeah.
like that doesn't happen before, right? So, but he
Yeah.
didn't realize that because of the camera that they were using, that they have to do it because of the IMAX camera. And I guess he didn't know about those details about the actual camera itself. So I thought that was kind of funny, but yeah, it's
Yeah.
kind
No.
of, yeah, go ahead.
No. So yeah, I read the same thing, and I didn't confirm if that was actually true or not. But yeah, I had read the same thing, and it's funny that you would think they would have told the actors on the set, that was going to be the case, but it seems like he didn't have any idea. So I would kind of a little. Makes me question the validity a little, because of that, because you would think Nolan would tell him ahead of time, hey, we're gonna have to do these takes in these like 2.5 2 minute 45 like increments, so you gotta like kind of somewhat nail it. Again, I'm not just speculating if that's what happened, but yeah, I'd read that same thing too.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting. Yeah, so I mentioned some of the cast already. Huge cast, and some of the faces you might be familiar with, because Nolan has worked with a lot of these actresses before. And then we kind of see that with other directors, right? They kind of stick with people that they know they have this working relationship with, or people that they know can nail whatever performance they're trying to come across on the screen. So Odysseus, Matt Damon, Telemachus, I think it's, I apologize in advance, I'm butchering his name, is Tom Holland, who we see here on screen. Penelope is played by Anne Hathaway. Antinous is played by Robert Pattinson. Athena is Zendaya. Emmaus by John Leguizamo. John Bernthal played Menelaus. Yeah, that's just some of them. Charlize Theron played Calypso.
Mhm.
And yeah, there's just a lot. That was just only some of them. I haven't even named them all, but huge cast, stacked for sure, which kind of surprises. How do I say this? It kind of, one of my cons here was kind of surprising to say, because of this, like how stacked this cast is. I was kind of expecting something, but it didn't just come through. So I'll before we get into that, I want to go over the pros first. So I figured we go over the pros, and then we'll get into the cons, since apparently it seems like we have a differing number of each between us. So again, just before I get into this, I want to preface, before we get into the pros and cons, I want to preface it by saying, like I said, I haven't read the books, so my critiques, my quote unquote analysis, if you want to call it that, of the film, is just based just on the film itself, and what I've known of other films. So there's that. Also, huge shout out to Christopher Nolan. I have like nothing but the utmost respect for that man. Even more so now. I've seen some shorts on IG where he was kind of going over the post-production process of
Mhm.
the film, and editing, and actually physically cutting strips with, and talking over with the negative technician, I think that's what they're called, that actually handle the negatives, and just his knowledge and his love of the of film, and just the craft. It comes across, and I had no idea he was that involved in that, with that aspect. And I knew he obviously he loved film, and he was into it, and he had there was a lot of creativity and art that he put into, and love he put into his film, but I didn't know his knowledge went to that extent. And so it was really cool to hear him explain some of that process, and see that he's aware of the science behind it, with the digital versus analog, and yeah, just that whole editing process. So it was really cool, really a lot of respect for him. So I really appreciate that that he went over a lot of that with us, the audience, in some of those clips, behind the scenes type of things there. All right, so pros. So uh, the the practical effects in this movie were awesome. They were great. I wasn't able to fully flesh out what was practical and what was CG, but and I will go over later the some of the scenes and some of the scenes and the environments that were practical later on in this discussion. We'll go over that, but I do love that Nolan, again, for the love of the film and going for that natural, authentic take and that realism, opted to go for practical where he could as much as possible, including the environments and how the characters were involved and reacted to that environment. So that was really awesome to see. I saw a couple of behind the scenes videos on that. Uh, so yeah, practical effects were awesome. I did love the theme of the movie. The theme of the movie, as I interpret it, was Zeus's law, because that was repeated multiple times throughout the movie. So I take it, and I know Nolan has mentioned that as well. I know Nolan kind of harped on that in some interviews, I believe. But yeah, I just love that theme of, just accepting people and being hospitable to them, to strangers, right? I know it's kind of tricky nowadays, but I just love the idea of that, right? Just kind of being generous, or being kind to your fellow neighbor or visitor. So and of course, the cinematography. I have some photos here. We go through Hoyt, again, Hoyt Van Hoytema. Again, apologies on the name, but yeah, beautiful shots in this movie. And I'm sure that the idea of filming this with 70 millimeter film too in IMAX was also a motivator. He wanted to make the best of it, and it didn't disappoint. I felt like I was really immersed in the film, as far as like the how grand it was, and just in that format, and just seeing on the big screen, and just the environments. They did a good job of pulling you into that environment, or the surroundings, I should say, in that aspect. And so I loved it. It was awesome. A lot of, like I said, a lot of beautiful shots taking advantage of that format. So really, really cool. Epic shots. And then honestly, I think that's costumes. Of course, the costumes played a part, but I think that'd probably be a given, for that, for a time period piece like this. Costumes were on point. Some of the monsters, oh yeah, that's kind of related to the practical effects. The monsters, the creatures in here were awesome. They looked great. I love that they did have those for the short time that they did. I wish they would have had more, honestly. Kind of harken back to older movies that had practical effects, like Jason and the Argonauts, and the original Clash of the Titans, with creatures created by Ray Harryhausen. I want to say his name was Ray. Yeah, I'm already forgetting, but Harryhausen. Yeah, I know. Yeah, so it's just I would have personally, selfishly, liked to have seen more, but I know how much trouble and how much effort and work that went into making these creatures here on screen. So I do appreciate that, the work and the art and the craft that went into these, what we did have. So really liked that, really enjoyed that. That was really cool. But aside from the pros, yeah, that was pretty much my list. I know it was short, but I know Gio had mentioned he had quite a bit. So I'll toss it over to Gio. Gio, what were your pros on this movie?
Yeah, just going back to the because you mentioned about the effects, like what was practical effects or digital effects. The ones that I know for sure were practical effects was the Cyclops, and the digital effect that I know of with the six-headed creature, whatever the
Yeah,
creature's
and the
called.
mountain or the rocks.
Yeah, so that one is
Yeah.
it's a digital effect, and I think I remember reading something about that Christopher Nolan was. Yeah, I don't know if he was inspired by Guillermo del Toro, or if he actually talked to Guillermo del Toro when it comes to the creatures,
Mhm.
because Guillermo del Toro is like the king when it comes to like
Yeah.
monsters and creatures in his films. Like they're
Yeah.
all like top notch, like they're the best creatures that you can see on film.
Hmm.
And so he got some inspiration, or maybe some direct knowledge from Guillermo del Toro himself, which I thought that was pretty cool. Um, as far as the positives, yeah, they're a bit more than your positives. They're
Yeah.
Feezy, but so I will of course start off with Christopher Nolan, who is an amazing filmmaker. He is the Steven Spielberg of the era or the time right now. And I was a big fan of his since I think the first movie that I saw of his was Memento.
Mm,
He wrote and directed that
yep.
film, and the way that that film was written, just the script alone. And I think he might have written it with his brother as well, Jonathan Nolan. But
Yeah.
that was like the first thing that I saw something of Christopher Nolan. And I'm like, yeah, this is a great filmmaker. This is one that I'm gonna remember. And then I started seeing some more films of him, and I was continuing to become a bigger fan, throughout the years and stuff like that. And then they finally announced that he's gonna take on Batman. I was like, yeah, that's gonna be perfect for Christopher Nolan to do, and things like that. So we got some other films like Oppenheimer, and then Dunkirk and Tenet, which actually did not like at all. But then when he announced that he's going to do this film, the Odyssey, I mean, I figured that he's going to put all his effort in this. I know he was not going to shoot this digitally. I know he wasn't going to try to use many digital effects, because I also remember something about reading something about uh, Christopher Nolan says something to the effect of, if it could be filmed practically, he's gonna do it. If it's not possible to do and shoot practically, like there's just no way to do it, or it'll
Yeah.
look too fake, then
Yep.
he'll take the digital route. And you can kind of see it here. Even the giant warriors that you see here, I think it's in this scene, right, with the trees. I
Uh,
believe he used like some giant ass men to, yeah, that those guys.
yeah.
I believe he used some like big guys for this. I don't think
Yeah.
they're like CGI or anything like that, and it doesn't even seem like it is anyway. But I'm sure they messed around with the shots and the angles and the cameras to make
Mm,
it seem like even larger, right? Kind of like they did with
yeah.
Lord of the Rings and stuff like that.
Yep.
Um,
Perspective.
so yeah, so all of this was expected for me. There are some movies that Christopher Nolan made throughout the years that I was a bit disappointed, but I still thought they were good movies or great movies, just not to the level that I used to have Christopher Nolan. But the last two, this one and Oppenheimer, have been hitting the mark for sure.
Mm,
Outside of a Batman film, since I'm a big Batman fan. So that's definitely a positive thing there. And then also, when it comes again to Christopher Nolan, throughout the years or through the past, um, a lot of people would rush to see a movie because a certain star is in it.
mm,
Like, oh, so and so's latest film is starring in, and people rush to see it because they want to see, I don't know, Will Smith, or even in the older times, uh,
Arnold
but
Schwarzenegger.
the new Arnold Schwarzenegger, or even like
Yeah.
later on, like the new Clark Gable or whatever, um, going way back.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like
John
now
Wayne,
it's
Clint Eastwood.
exactly right. But now it's like Christopher Nolan is a star. So I
Yeah.
think, like, well he has a lot of big stars in this
Mhm.
film. uh I wouldn't necessarily say that that was the draw. I think Christopher Nolan was the draw. I
Yeah.
think the
I
fact that
agree.
he was able to get all these stars like Zendaya, Tom Holland, Matt Damon, and Hathaway, all these big actors, uh I think that he was only to get them for this movie because of him, because
Yeah.
he is the guy right now. And I know they paid some of the actors a lot, but I think there was some that are just like willing to, like, yeah, I want to work with Christopher Nolan even if I get paid less. I'm sure that happened in other movies that Christopher Nolan
Yeah.
has made. So Christopher Nolan is a big pool for sure, and it definitely shows here. um, and I mentioned this when I was doing my brief discussion on my channel a few weeks ago. Uh, this movie kind of reminds me of the like the golden age. Not that I was alive during that
Mm,
time, but I mean, like, just watching those older movies and the way that it was shot. They shot them on location. You can see they took a lot of time to obviously they were shooting in film. They didn't have digital stuff, back in the 40s and 50s. Movies like Ben-Hur, Cleopatra, um, what's the one with Lawrence of Arabia? Like all those
Oh, yeah,
movies that they shot them on location, and they
yeah,
did everything practical and stuff like that, because that's the way that they were doing them back then. So this kind of reminds me of that. Like, here's a filmmaker using these old-fashioned ways, old-fashioned
yeah,
styles of filmmaking, but still kind of combining some of the digital aspects that are available now in 2025, 2026, and so on.
yeah,
So that was like a nice hybrid, a nice presentation of this is filmmaking, and it could still be done very
yeah,
well, and it could still be presented like an epic a movie
yeah,
that looks realistic and good.
yeah.
Uh, so that's definitely a positive thing there. The performance are always top notch. I would say when it comes to any Christopher Nolan movie. I did hear some people saying that certain actors didn't fit the roles here. Like, I heard some people were saying that John, what's
Bernthal?
the guy? Yeah, that he sounded too like mafia in this
Yeah,
movie,
yeah,
like to like Brooklyn or some shit, or
yeah,
New Jersey. And I was like, yeah, I guess so. I guess that's kind of, I guess that's kind of, that was the case there. And but overall, just in general, I thought the performances were really good. What's the name of the witch? I always forget the actress's name.
oh, Circe?
Samantha. Yeah,
Morton?
yeah, Samantha Morton. Yeah, I think she
Yeah,
was in Minority Report. Um, I think she'll get
I
nominated for
remember,
an
yeah.
Oscar for this. I thought she was awesome in that. Like, she's the one that stood out, and I actually forgot to even mention her that time, but she actually stood out when it comes to the performance,
Mm,
and that was actually one of my favorite scenes. Apart from the Cyclops scene, but I liked her sequence with the men started turning into like hogs and swine and pigs and all that shit. And so I even like that effect, like the way that they made them
yeah,
look or transform. So I thought that was good. So that's another positive thing for sure in there. Let's see. So the score, you mentioned the score earlier. What's the name of the composer? Ludwig.
Göransson?
Uh, yeah. So yeah, his score was great as well. He's worked with Christopher Nolan before. He's worked with Ryan Coogler. He's my age, and he already has three
Oh, is he?
Oscars for his for
Okay.
composing, for his craft. Already it's like, damn. So it's like, all right, so he's gonna be like the new John Williams, I would say,
Yeah.
because he's
Yeah.
still young.
Yeah. Wow. I
This
didn't know he
movie's
was that
gonna
young.
come out. Yeah, he's 41, and so I'm sure when the Oscar times, when Academy Awards time comes around, I'm sure he'll get nominated. He'll probably win again, and that'll be his fourth Oscar. And so, overall, I just thought this was an epic film. Um, there are a couple of negatives, which I'm sure you're gonna get into a lot more in a moment. But there are a couple of negatives that I was like, I'll discuss in a bit. But overall, like I said, just great looking movie. I didn't get the opportunity, like I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, that I didn't get the opportunity to watch it on IMAX
Mm,
70 millimeters, and I usually do try to go that route. But like I said, they were selling these tickets a year in advance, and I was like, do I really need to get a ticket right now, a year in advance?
yeah.
But maybe I should have. But I'm trying to see if I could get, because I think they extended the run to like mid September, so
Yeah. I
I
also did
should
see
be able
that
to catch it.
that Spider-Man Brand New Day, which I do plan on doing a spoiler discussion for that one, so stay tuned. But
Oh, okay.
that they brought that to IMAX after all. I thought I had heard that if I remember correctly, that they couldn't get an IMAX spot because Odyssey had bought out the showings
Yeah, they
for.
weren't
But I
gonna
guess
do it. They weren't
yeah.
gonna
So
do it.
I'm not sure what happened. I didn't get a chance to read more into it. Maybe for that when we have that spoiler discussion, I'll look more into it. But yeah. So Brand New Days in IMAX. I don't know how for how long, but you're saying it seems like they're going to bring back the Odyssey as well.
Yeah, they're extending the run to mid September. I believe I read till
Oh, okay,
September 16th or something like that. So
nice.
maybe they're extending it only to the 70 millimeter IMAX, because there's a lot of IMAX screens throughout the country and
Limax.
around the
Yeah,
world that are not 70 millimeter. So I
Right.
think
Yeah.
that's what they
Digital.
were able to.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what they were able to get Spider-Man in there.
Oh,
Um,
okay. You're saying on the digital. Oh, yeah. That might be.
af-
That's true. That might be the case too. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, because after it's run after, because I think it starts. I think this week. I think for the IMAX for Spider-Man.
Yeah. For Spider-Man. Yeah. I think. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I think you're right.
So I think they left some uh they left some spots open for the IMAX so that
Mm.
Spider-Man can go in there.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, if it's because if Spider-Man wasn't shot in 70 millimeter
Right.
that I'm aware of at all, so yeah, it wouldn't make sense to put it in those theaters that can show 70 millimeter. Just leave it for
Mhm.
Odyssey. So yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
But
Uh, go ahead. Yeah. Sorry.
I'm trying to see if there's any other positives. Well, I can't remember any others right now. I'm sure there are,
Okay.
but
No
yeah, you
worries.
can
Yeah.
move on to whatever you need to do now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you were mentioning you have some negatives as well. So
Mhm.
go ahead, go into. You might as well just go ahead into your negatives, and then yeah, I'll pick it up from there because I have my list is longer. I believe
Oh,
of
okay.
yours. So go ahead. What were your negatives of the movie?
Okay, so my negatives is I want to say maybe like the first half an hour, maybe 25
Mhm.
minutes or so of the film. It kind of dragged a bit. Like I like the opening
Yeah.
sequence. I thought that was done very well. It was cool, but shortly after that, it kind of dragged a bit.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Is the movie gonna be like this the whole time?" Because so it's like that's not going well. But I know they had to establish certain things, establish
Yeah.
certain characters and locations and scenes and just the overall story. So I get it, but I think
Mhm.
it dragged a little too long. Uh,
Yeah.
I started. I think it really kicked off once we get to the island where the Cyclops is, and I did enjoy the rest of the film after that, which was still like over 2 hours of the film. But I would say that that's a negative. That beginning of the film after the opening sequence, and I'm not sure if that was the same situation with you, Feezy, but I did notice there was a bit of some audio mixing issues. Uh, I don't know if it was just my
Yeah.
screen, my theater, or just in general, because I know Christopher Nolan has been very well known and documented for not caring too much about the audio mixing, at least not.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not saying that he doesn't care, but I just mean like it's kind of like, well, that's the way the story's gonna go. That's the
Yeah.
way the movie's gonna sound, or whatever. And sometimes it was kind of hard to understand what people were saying, or the audio is a little much louder than it needed to be. It's not as bad as like Tenet. Tenet's the worst when it comes to that, and some other movies like Dunkirk, and I think even The Dark Knight Rises had a little bit of issues like that. But it wasn't like those movies. But I still noticed it a bit. So it kind of like took me out of it a little bit. It's like, okay, well, can't I think I know what's going on, but you know, I'll find that to be a negative thing. Um, let me see if there's anything else.
Real quick, while you're thinking on
Mhm.
another pro, I did forget to mention. Yes, the sound effects. I did love the sound effects throughout the movie. I thought those sounded great. I love when they were used. But yeah, there's some moments where the sound effects or some of the background sound did drown out the dialogue in some parts of it. So yeah, I agree with that. But aside from that, I do love that the sound effects throughout the movie were awesome.
Yeah. I think that's it for now. I can't think of anything else. Maybe something will pop up later, but those are
Oh
my
wow. Okay,
couple
so
of
two.
negatives.
Yeah.
So
Oh man. Okay. All right. You sure? You sure? You got any more?
I
Maybe
think
when I
so.
go through mine. Okay.
Maybe actually, you might remind me of some things.
Okay. All right. So here I go. There's gonna be some hot takes here, and I know I've kind of read some after I kind of established my own take on it, my own um, thoughts on the movie and opinions. I kind of was looking around to see another. I was surprised to see that others had similar thoughts as me. So I'm definitely not alone, although I might be in the minority based on the ratings that this
Mhm.
has received, which is awesome. Either way, like to each their own, and everyone's getting the credit that they deserve. So I'm gonna start with some of the minor ones. The music, you mentioned the music. I personally didn't like the music. It was interesting, but it didn't seem to fit with the movie. Like it had a lot of synthesized sounds and vibes to it, and it just, I don't know, it was weird. It was kind of odd, and it just didn't seem to go with the time period. Um, or just the vibe, the tone. It was, I don't know. I just couldn't. It just didn't seem to fit. It kind of seemed it was going for more something a little more different, unique sound rather than kind of staying true to the time, to the period. And yeah, I just wasn't feeling the music personally. I did credit though on this. I did learn that Christopher Nolan does have writing credit for the song that was playing during the end credits. The song was titled When I'm Home, which was performed by Travis Scott and James Blake, composed by Goranson. But
Wow. Okay.
yeah, Nolan apparently has some writing credits on there, so I guess he came up with some of the lyrics for that song. So I thought that was kind of cool. So if that does win an award, he'll get some credit for that. So that was interesting. But overall, yeah, I just didn't. There was some moments of the music that seemed to be okay, but overall, yeah, I don't know. I wasn't feeling the music personally. Um, the dialogue and the acting, you mentioned the acting. Yeah, I'm one of those. I'm in the same boat, pun intended, that I wasn't feeling the dialogue. I don't know. It was really hard for me to believe the characters, which is weird. This is what I was kind of implying earlier, or touching on, with like, you have this stack cast, but for me, they just weren't selling. I don't know what it was. It just like it kind of seemed like they were playing themselves, both like in the way they were delivering their dialogue and just like in their mannerisms. Like Tom Holland just kind of seemed like he would be playing Tom Holland, obviously, except for his accent. Yeah, I definitely agree. The biggest one for me was John Bernthal. He kind of seemed like he was just playing himself when he was talking to Telemachus, Tom Holland's character, at the dinner table when
Mm.
he went to go visit him, and he was sitting next to him. The way he was just acting and the way he was talking, it just seemed like he was playing himself. And I couldn't, I just couldn't fully be invested in that character.
It was too
And
modern. Modern
yeah, it was
dialogue.
too modern. Yeah, not as modern though as, a friend of mine brought this up earlier because they were watching this, but that Dungeons and Dragons movie, I forget which one it was, with Chris Pine, that had the same problem with that one. Like I couldn't get into that movie. It was
I
better than
like
I
that movie.
expected, but the way he was talking, he was too modern. He was just talking like him, and was it Michelle Rodriguez, I think, was also in there? Was that her?
Yeah, it was there. Yeah.
Yeah, they were talking to each other like it was modern, like present day, rather than being in that era, that time frame, or just that world. It just, I couldn't. It kept throwing me off. It was distracting. I couldn't fully like believe that. So similar here, not to that extent, but here, just like a lot of the dialogue, it just kind of just seemed like it was just delivered like average, basic, just kind of deliver your lines and go on. And the acting, for the most part, although Anne Hathaway, I think she stole the movie, but but because I think her performance is elevated because everybody else's was basic. I know it's hard, it's rough to say with these actors, but I don't know. It just, yeah, I just couldn't.
Even Matt Damon.
That, yeah, I mean, I guess he would be, I think, a step down from Anne Hathaway's. Matt Damon, he had his moments, but even then, I think it was kind of somewhat exaggerated. So, yeah, I don't know. Like some of it, he could have. I think more emotion could have been put in certain scenes for him. And I know, or when it was, emotional scenes, it kind of seemed like he went above and beyond. So it was kind of crazy. Like the siren,
Mhm.
the scene with the sirens where they tied him up. Like he went like full on. I think he used all his energy in that one scene, because yeah, you can tell he was really in pain and being tortured. So I don't know if it was, he made it seem like it was really that unbearable to hear that song. It was crazy. Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. I think Anne Hathaway, Samantha Morton, I know a lot of people are praising her. I think she did a good job, but I wouldn't say it was great for the role. But again, to be fair, it's just the role she was playing didn't really allow her to kind of be put on a great performance. It was just kind of her allowing these guests in. And again, Samantha Morton, for those of you who forgot, she plays Circe, the witch, I guess she's supposed to
Which,
be, who was in
mhm.
that shack. There wasn't really any big like invested emotional scenes. I think there was the moment where, yeah, she was angry or pissed, um, because she had allowed certain strangers, and I forget exactly when. Like, again, it's been like a little over 2 weeks since I've seen it, but I don't think there was anything major where she could have shown through. So even then, I think her performance was still okay. Yeah, I personally think Anne Hathaway was she had a lot more emotion. I felt a lot more connected with her character compared to everybody else's. Um, and that kind of and that kind of was unfortunate too, because a lot of the movie I just couldn't fully be I wasn't fully invested in the world and this in the lore and the characters. And I know I had mentioned, yeah, like it was shot on 70 millimeter and I saw it, and it was that environment. I felt immersive in that regard, like I was immersed in the environment. But as far as like being in the world, or feeling like I was a part of the world and along with the characters, I couldn't fully become invested just because I wasn't feeling it through their performance of the dialogue. So that was a big thing for me. But I think the biggest of all was the story. Or lack thereof, in my opinion. It just
Yeah.
was not. Again, I know the theme of the movie was Zeus's law, right? Because they repeated that so many times, and then Matt Damon's character Odysseus ended up explaining, at the end what had happened. But his taken up, but it just a lot of inconsistencies between the character. But the movie was just basically them going to Odysseus and his crew going from one island to another, and there wasn't even a lot of development on those islands. Like, they would get there and they would run away. They'd go to the next island and they would run because there was danger. There wasn't really any story, any like kind of subplot or anything to add to that. It was just them going and leaving, them going and leaving, and just like a voyage, basically, right? It's just kind of following on there, but it wasn't really that interesting of a voyage. I mean, yeah, I don't want to sound like I'm contradicting myself, because I do love the monsters. Like I said, I do like that they had that interaction there, but as far as the story around it, it just kind of seemed like it was an interaction for them to show off the monsters, and then they left. So some examples, yes, I do have some examples to back that up. I don't want to just say it was a story, but the main thing, Odysseus and his character, I mentioned inconsistencies. It kind of seemed like he was, for someone that missed his wife and his family and his kingdom, he was
Mhm.
way too quick to not go home right away. His right hand, I forget his name, but he was like, sir, should we follow Agamemnon back? Like, shouldn't we just go with him? And he was like, nah, we'll take the long way. We'll just get there when we get there, and maybe we'll get lucky. So he just made a quick decision and took all like his crew and his ships, and they just went this long way. And we, again, come to find out later on like why, but still he was ashamed, right? Because of what he had done, or he takes the blame for what he has done, and allowing
Mhm.
the Agamemnon and his army and the Greeks into Troy, right? And he saw what had become of that. But still, like, that was too quick of a decision to be like, you know what, I don't want to go home. I'm gonna prolong my time away from my family. So that wasn't really believable to me. I thought that was kind of um I think that could have been written better, more of a motivation for him not to go home, or at least kind of deliver it where like he was really ashamed, rather than kind of make a quick decision, especially for as much as he was talking about his wife and his son. Um, let's see here. Also, let's see. I did that. Oh yeah, I mentioned his decision. Again, like, inconsistencies with his character. He made it seem like he was looking out for his crew. He kept, there's even a few lines where he said that he didn't want to sacrifice his crew, and he was always looking out for them. And that they kind of were portrayed in scenes with them that they wanted to be good people, right? They wanted to help people. And so whenever they would go to certain islands, it kind of seemed like they just were looking for food, right? They just were following, again, Zeus's law, just to get food and nothing more. And then turns out at the end that they were in fact, Odysseus and his crew were the people of the sea, right? That the rumors had spread around of people of the sea just stopping by and pillaging um, certain towns. And so, and Matt Damon, or Odysseus, at the end, I think he reveals to Penelope, his wife, that him and his crew were the people of the sea, and that he was ashamed of that too. But I didn't see that in those scenes, right? Even we go to that scene with Circe again, where he tells his men they wanted to have a mutiny, and he was going to go up alone and talk to Circe and just see if they could get food, or that the house that he saw. And they were like, no, we want to go. You stay here. So he's like, okay. So they go up there, and his men start talking to him, and Circe tells his men, Okay, you can come in, just leave your armor and your weapons outside, and then you will be fed basically. And they agreed, they obliged, they didn't put up a fight. They didn't just like, forget you, lady, we're gonna just take everything you have. And so like, yeah, they left all their armor out there, the weapons, they went inside and they were eating. And unfortunately they were all turned into pigs, but but still, it's like there wasn't that, again, that wasn't them pillaging. So I don't know if it was kind of one of those situations where the rumors just ended up becoming, made it worse than than his crew seemed. Like that whole game of telephone where one message starts and the rumor just spreads and people start adding things, and when it gets back to a certain point, they make it seem like worse than it is. So I don't know if that was the case or that was was intended here, but yeah, they didn't seem like they were that bad. And so that, yeah, I kind of had an issue with, which that's one of the things that kind of gets me a lot in movies in general, just inconsistencies. I can't even say that word right. So that was another big part of the story that was just that just wasn't on board with. Again, pun intended on that one. Let's see. Oh yeah, and then going back to the dialogue, yeah, I had it here. One of the things that was annoying that just was funny, I was actually laughing. I think I was laughing out loud at this, was Pattinson. So Pattinson did a good job of playing an annoying character. He was, he made you want to hate him, and rightfully so with all the suitors. But at the end when Odysseus finally got there, and he was fighting all those guys after they were locked in, and then the one of the guys went up above to the armory room to get the weapons, and he broke a hole in the wall and he was dropping them all down. Every time he dropped something different, Robert Pattinson's character would always say, something like, "Oh, look at that, get that." So he would drop the swords. He's like, "The swords, get the swords." And then that guy would drop the shields. He's like, "The shields, get the shields." And then he would drop the spears, like, "Get the spears." It just was so funny. I literally laughed just because this is like that dialogue. You just repeated the same thing. And it was, yeah, it was like, oh man, yeah, I don't know what was going on there. I don't know what the intention on that was, but it was just, or maybe that's what it was. I don't know. Maybe it was meant to be somewhat humorous. I don't know, to show how cowardly he was. So yeah, I don't know. Ultimately, for me, overall, like the story, just like I said, that's like the major part of it. And then for me personally, that's like a major part of the movies that I gravitate towards, that weigh more on my decision if I like a movie or not. I kind of compare it to video games because I'm also a gamer, right? If the game itself is fun, then I don't really care so much about the graphics. I mean, yeah, that would be nice if the graphics in video games were, they look good depending on what type of game it is. But even then, some games can get away with just having more cartoony, animated, or even 2D side-scrolling games. As long as the game itself is fun and the story is well written and intriguing, I'll enjoy it. So kind of same here. If the movie is well written and that the dialogue by way of the story also, there's more chance that I personally will be invested and I will enjoy that movie, or I'll love it. Right. An example that you and I discussed was Obsession. Right. You compare the budgets to the big huge difference, right, between the budgets and the scenes. I mean, I know, totally different movie, but just to kind of show you, like, that was, I would say, solely focused on the story alone and trying to create something unique and different with a known idea, that being like the monkey's paw type of idea. And I love that movie. We talked about it before. If you missed it, link will be in the description below to check out that Obsession spoiler discussion. And so that movie doesn't have it wasn't shot in 70mm, doesn't have these grand epic shots. I just love the story, right? So kind of same thing here. This had those epic shots shot in 70mm. Cinematography was beautiful, but the story just didn't land for me personally. I just couldn't get involved with the characters. And yeah, unfortunately, that's overall, because of that, I think this movie was okay for me, in my opinion. So aside from those two pros, the positives that I aimed earlier, overall, I don't think this is a movie that's going to be making it to my collection. I'm still on the fence. If it does, it's solely because of the idea behind it and what Nolan put into it, like the artistic aspect, I should say, right, of just him wanting to be as close, the quality to being as close to what the eye actually sees as possible, and him investing that effort to do so, which I really respect that he did that, and he avoided going digital and in all aspects of the film, and he wanted to put this on actual film to get as much information. And so I think because of that, that's one of the key factors that is weighing in my decision to purchase this on physical media. And plus, he's a big time pro physical media person too. So gotta love that, as am I. So, but yeah, any thoughts on my cons or anything to you want to counter on that?
Well, what were your thoughts on the horror style or horror inspired sequences in this movie? Because I know there was, I don't know if it was accurate or not, or sometimes you see stuff online, and I
Hmm.
remember reading something years ago that Christopher Nolan was toying with an idea of doing a full on horror movie,
Oh,
and we kind of see a little bit of sequences of that here in this movie, which I really liked. One of them
yeah.
being the Cyclops scene, and then the scene with the witch and stuff like that. Uh, so based on those sequences, what were your thoughts when it comes to just like as those horror elements, and if he could do a great horror film just based on what you've seen in this movie?
Yeah, I'd be all for that, man. I mean, you and I are horror fans, right? That's one of our favorite genres of film, movies, TV shows. So, yeah, I loved those scenes. Like I said, the creatures and those interactions, that whole like those all the sequences, like you mentioned, the Cyclops, the Polyph- Polyphemus, I think it is, the son of Poseidon, right? That was awesome.
Oh
Just the way
yeah.
they did that,
Mhm.
the whole shot, that whole scene, that whole sequence. The giants, I wish it would have been a little bit longer. Here, let me go back to that photo here of the poster. But yeah, that was kind of short lived. Again, that kind of was again one of my biggest issues with it was just kind of it's not really a story, and that's a good example. I would like to have seen more done with this. Maybe they had to get something, or they needed to go through them or work around them, and they couldn't leave until they got something. I don't know. Add something more to it. They just kind of showed up. They saw that kid, the small giant, the normal sized person, I guess, and they just turned around and ran away once all these giants came. And yeah, so I didn't really get to see them too much other than them being in armor. Um, yeah, no, but I love those scenes, and so like I said, I wish there would have been more, or they would have more in depth and had more to it than just kind of encountering them and running away. But yeah, I'd be for it if Nolan did tried his hand at a horror movie. I'd be intrigued to see what he came up with.
Yeah, the dialogue, like the more modern dialogue of this movie, it didn't really bother me that much. Like I would have
Mm.
preferred it not be it, but
Yeah,
it didn't really affected my overall experience of the movie. But I did notice it
mm,
in the trailer
yeah,
because he says, Tom Holland says, I forgot what the line was exactly, but he says something about my dad will come back or he will return, or but he says the word dad instead of, I don't know, something you would say father or something like that.
yeah,
So there's just a couple of things that is like, oh, that doesn't sound like very much of quote unquote the era.
yeah.
So I mean, yeah, I did notice that, but to me, it wasn't significant enough for me that it would like
It didn't
overall,
bother you.
but yeah, affected my
Gotcha.
overall experience of it.
Yeah, and then like I said, I haven't read the book. I know I said it a couple of times, but just to reiterate that. So I
Same
don't
here.
know how accurate this is to the book, or at what Nolan put his own personal spin on certain things, or his own like interpretations of certain things, or what if he took certain things a different direction, or even like the character. And I say that again because I think the biggest critique of the movie for me was Odysseus, and like I don't know if he's that's how he is in the book, but he just seems like he made a lot of bad decisions in the movie, which
He
is kind
does.
of which is um, contradictory to him being supposed to
Again,
be
yeah.
like intelligent. I don't know if he's only intelligent like in war and fighting, but not in like everyday life, or I don't know, because he just
Yeah.
again he sacrifices his men trying to tell him like, sir, that's not a good idea, we should do this, we should do that, and he's like, no, we're gonna do this, and then he just goes and ends up getting a lot of his men killed, not just once, but like a couple of times. He just ends up dwindling a ship down to just one ship, right? All his crew that he had. And so um apparently he's supposed to come off as arrogant and egotistical, I believe. But again, I didn't really see that so much. I saw that in one scene. Well, again, the um the siren scene, right, where he asked his crew to tie him to the, I think it's called the mast, basically that pole where that's attached to the sail. I think that's what it's called. I could be wrong. Sorry if I got that wrong. But anyways, he told him to tie him to that so that way he can just listen and experience that. And he even said, so I can be the only one who can say that they've gone through that and then lived, or something along those lines. Right? I'm paraphrasing. So I mean, that did show that he had somewhat of a prideful, like egotistical personality. But other than that, it didn't really come off too much. Like I was mentioning, it seemed like he kept saying he wanted to look after his crew, and he was talking to Hades, I think it was, when he went to that island. And then Hades, I think it was Hades, was telling him, if you want to get back home, you have to go, this direction, and some of your men will have to be sacrificed. And then
All
Matt
right, yeah.
Damon's response was like, well, I'm not going to sacrifice my man. I'm not going to do that. But I mean, he'd already killed so many by then. I don't know. It was just weird. And then like the guy, I think there was a guy that, an older gentleman in one of the towns that they went to, was telling him, he was speaking another language, and another one of Odysseus' men was translating. And he was saying, we're looking for a way to get back home. I forget where, so apologies. But the old man was basically telling him, oh no, Odysseus said, we want to travel west, or west in some direction. The old man was saying, like, you'll only find, heartbreak or evil or something in that direction, or bad things basically if you sail that way. And so he had a lot of the warnings, but he still went. And again, that all comes back to in the beginning, right after Troy, he just decided to take the long way and not follow Agamemnon, even though Agamemnon got there way before Odysseus and his crew did, and he was already there eating grapes and clean and just living life. He ultimately
Being a
got
mob
killed, but
boss.
yeah, being a mob boss, yeah. Well, all the while, Odysseus was like sacrificing his crew. Yeah, I don't know. It was just, again, I don't know if that's how the story went, just based solely on the movie. Yeah, it wasn't my favorite adaptation of the story of Odysseus.
I think I thought I heard something about, didn't the I don't know if it's Hades or not, or maybe like some other name
Mm.
with that scene on the island.
Yeah, we come
Uh,
out of the ground,
yeah, well, when he tells
right?
them
Yeah.
that your men will. Oh, I don't know if it was him or the witch, or some of them mentioned something about, if you go this route,
Mm.
you're gonna, some of your men are gonna die or whatever. And from my understanding of it, it seemed like he was okay with it. Like he was willing to sacrifice some of them to be able to go through that route.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was kind of my understanding of that. And then there was something else I was going to mention, but now I just completely forgot. But
Yeah, no, you're right. He did, like, when he was it. And yeah, you're right. I can't, because Cersei did say something similar. Like, if you want to get home, you have to. Oh no, she was telling me you have to go to the land of the dead to talk to Hades, or who? I don't know, maybe it wasn't Hades. It was somebody else. There was another name she said, but I can't remember who she had said. But you have to go there, talk to that person to find out how to get home. And so I think he presented him with two options. Like, you can either go this way and get everybody killed, or you can go this way and get some people killed. And I believe Odysseus's first initial response was like, well, I don't want to do any of that. There has to be another way. I don't want to kill any of my men. But he was like, you have to leave it up to fate. You got to pick one. If you want to get home, that's the only way. And so that's when they went through that whirlpool. I think this
yeah,
was that, right. They went to like that
yeah,
right, that whirlpool
the creature
part of
with
the
the
sea.
six-headed.
Yeah, and he was like, well, let's just go right, knowing that some of his men were going to die.
Hmm.
But he didn't tell him that, right? Obviously, because or else they wouldn't have um, followed him, or they wouldn't have listened to him. And so he just went and they took some men. I think it was like six or something like that. That rock monster, or that creature with the six heads, I think you said,
Hmm.
ended up taking. And then they were all, yeah, his crew was all pissed at him afterwards. But he told him, like, yeah, well, this is, if I would have told you otherwise, you wouldn't have believed me, or you wouldn't have listened to it. So yeah, it
Yeah,
was just,
because I thought the other option was that, or you all die.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, you all died.
Yeah, that
Those are the
part.
two
Yeah.
options he was given. Yeah.
Mhm.
I thought this was funny too, because I know I saw a couple of posts saying It's like, this might be a stupid question, but why don't they just go left around the other way? And so, I mean, I'm sure in the story, in the book, or in the poem, I should say, the original, I'm sure there was like, it made it seem like there's only two ways you can go, but this is kind of more of like a visual. Um, this is just a result of like the visual take. There's probably something there on the left too, but it's just funny. I've read somebody ask that. It's like, yeah, or even in between, like go around, but go in between like the whirlpool and the rock.
It kind of
But
reminds me of there's a Simpsons episode where I think Homer needs to go to catch up to or to find Barney because he got stuck in a mountain with ice and snow. And then he goes into with his vehicle, he goes into like those old-fashioned bridges that are like barely stable and he's like
oh, like
struggling and shit. And I think that's the episode. And I
I
think
can't
there was
remember.
like, oh, there's another side, there's an actual bridge, like a regular bridge that you could have
Oh,
gone.
I don't remember that one. Yeah,
I
but
think I think I think it was that episode or something
there's
to that effect on
similar.
The
Yeah,
Simpsons. Yeah, something like that. When he's all struggling, like, well, you could have just gone that way. So,
yeah, you could have. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I'm sure there's a reason why Nolan didn't shoot the left side, because that probably would have. Yeah, that probably would have. Um, Probably revealed that, like, oh, you could have just went left, but I think for the shot they just had to cut that out, so it made it seem like there was only two directions they could go. Even though, like, again, there's like a huge gap here between that the whirlpool and those rocks there. But so yeah, I don't know, that's just, like I said, it's just the story. A lot of there's probably some other things too, but those are the main things along with the story that I just didn't seem like, I don't know, I felt that they could have been written better, or different approaches taken to make it a little more believable. But yeah, those were my cons. Like I said, ultimately, I think I just ended up thinking the movie was okay. Anything else to add? And going back to pros or cons, or any other critiques or praises
um,
of the film?
I would say, I did watch Troy, the 2004 film, the
Oh
Wolfgang
yeah, yep,
Peterson
same.
film, right before the Odyssey. And well, it's not exactly, obviously it's not from the same like quote unquote universe or whatever, but it was kind of a good companion having watched that and then watching the Odyssey. Like it kind of like helped a bit with some of the characters. Of
Yeah,
course, they're like completely different casting regarding those characters, but it's a good companion with it because it's kind of like a prequel of this
yeah, no, it
in a
definitely
way.
is.
And
Yeah.
but I didn't read the books either, like you mentioned. But
Hmm.
so that was a good idea if you haven't watched this before.
Yeah, no, thank you for bringing that up, because yeah, I did the same, but I did it after the fact, right? Because I wanted, like I mentioned, before we started this the video, that I wanted to do a fair comparison, because I was talking about story and uh, how much that weighed on my decision, how and kind of disappointed I was because of the story, right? Because I was looking forward to watching this, and there was a lot of hype, but I try to temper my expectations. So, um, and I think even with that tempering my expectations, I'm like, oh, okay, I think the story could have been better. So for somewhat of a comparison, I went back and I saw Troy, and yeah, so again, Troy is based on, and you're right, this is a prequel, or if you want to say Odyssey is a sequel to the Iliad, right? So this
Mhm.
Troy is based on Homer's The Iliad. That's the first part of a set of poems written by Homer, and then the Odyssey is the sequel, right? It's the whole trip of Odysseus going home, and so they're kind of connected in that sense. And you're right, different actors, different directors. Fun fact: the director, I didn't realize this until I went back and I saw it. The director of this movie also directed the Never Ending Story, and
Oh,
I forgot to write down his name. I thought I did here, but I
isn't it
didn't.
Wolfgang
But
Peterson?
there you go. Thank you. Yeah, Wolfgang Peterson. Yeah, yeah, and I did not realize that. Um, but yeah, Troy went back. I think it still holds up. And this, comparing the two story wise, I definitely think this did a better job telling a story. The dialogue was better. There were some parts where it was maybe a little overacted, a little more dramatic, but for the most part, I think, yeah, this was really entertaining. I was there was different levels to the story, right? There was a little more complexities, and it wasn't straightforward. It wasn't just them going to to Troy and take over. There was other things that happened throughout there. See, those are the things that I enjoy, that I personally enjoy. I love to see, and like I would like in a story. It's like it's not just straightforward. There are also like kind of subplots throughout and things going on within there, and different conflicts. And even like Achilles himself, like the Achilles played by Brad Pitt, uh, how just the complexity of his character, how he's fighting for the Greeks, but he doesn't exactly agree with the king
Right.
that he's fighting for. He's just doing it because of his people and like his crew, his the people around him, his inner circle, and just that whole conflict and that whole just like relationship between, or lack thereof, was really interesting. So that alone tied into everything else. Yeah, it just was really entertaining.
I
I love the story in this. Go ahead. Sorry.
I really liked Troy when it first came out, and
Mm,
even rewatching it, I thought it was entertaining from beginning to end. It's one of those
right.
few
Same.
movies that are kind of like that.
Yeah. This is
And
also long.
yeah, this one is like 2 hours, 35 minutes, 40 minutes around there, getting
Mm,
close to
yeah.
the length of the Odyssey. And yeah, so I always like this movie, and yeah, I think I saw this a couple times in the theater actually when it first came out, and I've seen it several times. And I would say that I would say that I would more likely to rewatch this than the Odyssey,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. No, I'm definitely with you there.
because
Yeah.
the Odyssey is not there. I've only watched it once. It's only been a few weeks
Yeah.
since I've seen it. Um, so I just had a better time watching Troy
Mhm.
overall.
Yeah.
Even though I still really liked the Odyssey as well. But yeah.
Yeah, no, and this one I do have in my collection. I have it on Blu-ray. I do need to get it on 4K still. So I've been eyeing. I know who is it? Vinegar Syndrome did a special edition 4K that I'm eyeing. So I have to pull the trigger on that one. So, but yeah, I saw it on Blu-ray. So I'm like, damn, I need to go back and get it again on 4K. I thought I had it, but apparently not. So, but yeah, I'm with you all day. I would always pick between the two, Odyssey and Troy. I would pick Troy. Again, I know they're different stories, but just based on storytelling and everything else, this was like I think this was done well. Like the music, the dialogue, and I already mentioned the story multiple times. So yeah, I think I honestly, I personally, in my opinion, think this is a better movie than the Odyssey. Comparing the two for the time pieces and the stories, the similar related stories between the two. Yeah, I would pick Troy over the Odyssey. What else was I gonna touch on? You had mentioned something. Um, and I can't remember. Okay, well, this is, like I said, this was adapted from the Iliad. Going back to, I mentioned there was another movie based on the Odyssey that was done that I almost forgot about. That I was listening to another podcast and they had brought it up, and I was like, oh yeah, that's right. Because my mind was just set on uh, the Odyssey or Iliad adaptations from that actual time period. But there's another movie that adapted it into the Great Depression era, and that was "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou." So this
Uh,
is uh, This is an adaptation of the Odyssey, right? So it's modern telling, well, modern being the Great Depression era. So it's not obviously a 1-to-1 like the Odyssey, Nolan's Odyssey is, but um, I love this movie. The music, everything about this is another one where I just, aside from it being tied to Homer's Odyssey, just like the movie itself, everything it's funny. Again, the music, the story, the characters, the dialogue. I've seen this so many times. This is one of my favorite movies. It's a Coen Brothers movie,
mm.
and yeah, in my opinion, this I think is the best adaptation of the story of the Odyssey that I've seen. I know there are others. I haven't seen the other Odysseys or Ulysses. I think there's one called Ulysses. Um, but yeah, this is one of my favorites, and I can and I will, and I have seen this multiple times. Yeah, I don't know. Did you like this movie, Gio? Are you a fan of this one?
I did not.
Wait, you did not see it, or you did
I
not
did.
like it?
I did not like it.
Oh, okay. Whoa. Okay.
uh,
What's your quick take on that?
I watched it once when it first
Yeah.
came out. I don't remember much of it except that I
Okay.
wasn't a big fan of it. I know
Gotcha.
George
Okay.
George Clooney. Yeah, George Clooney's in the yeah.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, yeah,
You know, George Clooney was in this.
yeah.
I don't know. I'm a big fan of the Coen brothers. There's a lot of their movies that I've liked,
Yeah.
you know, throughout the years, but this one didn't really do it for me. And
Okay.
yeah, I just watched it that one time, and that was it.
Whoa, surprising turn of events. I did not see that coming, man.
That's what you said. Oh, brother, where art thou? I was like,
Yeah,
oh,
I got to do one of those. Yeah, no, this Odysseus would be George Clooney's character. Actually, his name in the movie is Ulysses Everett McGill, right? And so Ulysses is, I believe, the Roman name for Odysseus, and so he obviously plays the Odysseus character. There's some parallels in there with Cyclops. John Goodman plays Big Dan, who has one eye. He has an eye patch, right? So he would be the Cyclops. There's literally sirens in the movie, so there's the sirens there. There is some potential transformations, right? Like in Nolan's Odyssey, those Odysseus's crew turns
mm.
into pigs, right, by Circe. But here in this movie, they turn into, well, one of them turns into a frog, right, a toad, yeah. And so yeah, they thought, well, that thought he did, but so yeah, there's some parallels in there, and so there's some takes on it. Like I said, it's not a direct one-to-one translation, but there are some aspects of it. So it is an adaptation of that, just retold in like a different time, a different era. So yeah, again, I just love it. The soundtrack also is just awesome. So yeah, that's my hot take there. I think as far as the story of the Odyssey, "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou" will be my go-to every time over the Odyssey, over Nolan's Odyssey. Sorry, no shade on the Odyssey. It's just, that's just me. I know, again, I'm in the minority there. I know a lot of millions of people disagree with me, but yeah, let me know actually in the comments if you do agree with me. I'm curious to hear how many people actually feel the same way, or if even if you don't like this, if you felt the same way I did about the Odyssey, let me know as well. And because I'm curious to see how much of a minority, if at all, that is the case on that. But anything else to add to Troy or Brother Where Art Thou, Gio?
Uh, no, I think I said
No?
everything what I want to say about
Okay.
Troy, and I don't remember much of "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou." Just
That you didn't
simple
like it?
fact that I wasn't a fan of it.
When
So,
when did you see it last? I wonder if it was just because of like the
oh, it
age, like when you
was
saw it, maybe like your like the age you were at or something. I don't know, like age.
maybe because this movie came out, I think, in 2000, if I'm not mistaken.
You might be right. I
Uh,
can't remember the year. I'm not good with years.
so I watched it.
Hmm.
It wasn't that long after it actually came out. I know I didn't go to the theater to watch it.
Oh, okay.
So it would have been maybe a couple years after it came out, like on, I guess, would have been on DVD or something. So it was,
Oh yeah, you're right.
oh,
I just looked it up. 2000. Yeah. Wow.
yeah, so probably 20 years.
Yeah. Okay. I would say then in that case, I would say give it another chance. Give it another chance and see if your taste has changed and maybe have more of an appreciation for it.
Mhm.
And then let me know if you're willing.
All right.
If you're willing, yeah. If you can squeeze it into your time with other movies and other things that you're doing, the other content that you're making, maybe watch in the background or something. I don't know. Because I'm really, I was really surprised to hear that you didn't like this movie. But
That's
if
a
you try, if you,
bluegrass.
yeah, folk music, bluegrass, yeah. Because you know me, I love music also, all genres of music, and especially movies that incorporate music within the film. Like I mentioned,
Mm.
Scott Pilgrim, this one, and of course musicals. I told you we discussed earlier that I'm a fan of musicals as well. So combining two things that I love, film and music, and if there's a way to incorporate video games as well, I'm even more for it. Yeah. So, yeah, I just love this movie. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, going on to practical effects. I know you had mentioned that. You mentioned some of them earlier. I wanted to kind of go back on that and discuss a little more. Like I said, that's one of the things I loved about this movie was the practical effects. And I appreciate everything Nolan has done and his determination to make everything as practical as possible. Some of the things that I read that I was impressed by, to find out that was shot practically or with like prosthetics. The pig scene, I know we mentioned the pig scene. I know that they used molds for that and prosthetics on the actors um, and in some pig shaped heads, and to kind of kind of similar to, it kind of seemed like it was similar to what is it, American Werewolf in London, I think it was. I
London.
forget which one it was, right, where they had something similar,
Yeah.
right, where they had like prosthetics. Yeah, so I did something similar to
Mhm.
that, which is awesome. I tried to find pictures of that, but there weren't really any pictures online from news media outlets that I could find anyways. So there was that. I did hear or watch that they used real ships, like real vessels or boats in the movie, and that Nolan had the crew, all the Odysseus crew, actually go through a rowing camp or rowing training, right, to learn actually how to steer the ship. So that was them actually steering out in the open water, which is awesome. So they used real ships where they could, out in the open sea, near in and near Italy, and places in Europe there on the out in the ocean. So that was awesome to hear and see. The horse, the Trojan horse, that was
Oh yeah.
actually built and that was made. That was all legit to scale, enough so big enough so people could actually fit inside. And so they had, from what I understand, they had to ship that on location in pieces, just because, again, obviously it was so big, so they couldn't set it all at once. They sent it in pieces and they had it assembled on site, and they used it. And Nolan wanted to have people actually pull it, so they tried to also make it as light as possible so a bunch of people could pull it. That was really
Mhm.
cool. The whirlpool scene here, that was, I had read that was actually created with people on jet skis. So apparently there's jet skis there going around to create that whirlpool, and they use some. So this is an instance where they use some digitization to expand the whirlpool a little bit more, and or remove the jet skiers.
Oh,
But
okay.
because that's a huge whirlpool, so I don't know,
Yeah. I don't,
right? I don't know to what extent they use that anything, something in post production, like digitally, to enhance that. I don't know to what extent, but yeah, 'cause that is huge. But yeah, apparently there's jet skis in there creating that whirlpool. Um, and then the last thing I noted here, there's probably more, but the last thing I noted was for the Cyclops scene. There was a company, Hammer FX, I believe it is, that created edible soldiers. So the soldiers that the Cyclops is holding, Polyphemus, I think his name, or its name. Those are made of silicone, and inside they have blood bags. So whenever the actor would go in and take a bite out of it, the blood bag would burst and rip, and it would just kind of seem like. And plus, with the silicone, it made it seem like he was actually ripping the soldiers apart, and blood was coming
mm,
out. So that was really cool that they actually made those little edible soldiers for this actor to munch on and rip apart. Um, yeah, I already touched on the pigs. Anything else I'm missing? Was there? I know you touched on some earlier in the discussion, but anything else you can remember?
as far as like practical effects and just
Yeah,
practical effects,
yeah. Of course, the
um,
sets, right? They filmed a lot of it on
on
site at the
yeah, on
on location.
location.
Yeah, different parts of Europe.
And I'm trying to think if there was anything else that came up.
Oh, you mentioned the Giants too. To get a little more into
Oh yeah.
that, yeah. So Nolan hired. He did. I read the same thing. Nolan hired a bunch of actors, actresses that are actually tall, so like over 7
Mhm.
feet, and then to compensate, to actually emphasize the height, he hired actors that were shorter, like on the shorter side, to play Odysseus and his crew, especially Odysseus. So Matt Damon wasn't playing himself here. He got someone, Nolan had someone else, like one of the shorter people that he hired to kind of put on
Mm.
the armor. So that's why you only see him from behind. This is played by, here in this photo, a shorter person, in contrast to like the taller people. So to give that additional perspective of the height difference there, to emphasize the height difference there. So I thought that was really cool. Yeah, going back to hiring people of various lengths to achieve that.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what else, if there was anything else, because I think you touched on everything. Uh, yeah, I think that might be it.
Okay. Yeah. So again, really appreciate the work that went into there, that Nolan, and I want credit to the cast and crew, and um, the engineers and the artists who created those practical effects too. Because yeah, you guys killed it. You did a great job. Like I said, all the creatures, all the monsters in there were awesome. So I know Nolan. This was Nolan's, his vision, but yeah, to everyone else, the crew who worked on the production and creating these set pieces and designs and the costumes, yeah, kudos to you. I know there's a lot to name here, And I'm sure if you are at least nominated and you win, well deserved. So we'll see what the competition looks like, but I hope you at least get some recognition where deserved, where you can. So props to everyone who worked on this film. Despite my criticisms, it's still visually appealing.
As wrong
okay,
as
what's that?
As wrong as it is.
How dare you? All right, so because some of the things I touched on last time in the previous, I think it was an obsession. We're collectors. Gio and I are collectors, and so of course, there's certain aspects of the movies that we also are intrigued by, the collecting aspect. And of course, what better way to represent the film that you're watching with by getting popcorn buckets here. So for those of you that aren't aware, I'm sure a lot of you are, but they did send out or put out a couple of popcorn buckets in promotion for the film. We have here an IMAX camera. And I just realized too, I wonder if this is supposed to be based on that new camera that Nolan helped create, the Keeley, or if this is based on a standard one. I think it's a standard one, right? But
I can't tell, but I got this. I pre-ordered it. They didn't have it in my theater. It was out of stock already.
But you pre-ordered it? Nice. Yeah, this was hugely popular. I was surprised because it was sold out, and then I saw it go back in stock, and that's when I let you and others know, like, hey, FYI, you better get it if you want it because it's in stock again. Yeah, and I believe it has since sold out again. So yeah, it's crazy. I wonder if this has anything to do with it here. It does include a still an image of a scene from the Odyssey here within the viewfinder. And this kind of reminds me of back in the day. You remember those viewfinder things where you can put like disc in? They had like different little photos, and you rotate them. And you can see like in 3D. It kind of reminds me of that. I don't know if it is that. You have to let me know when you get it, if that's the case. If it actually has like some sort of 3D element to it. But it, yeah.
I think it said that it won't ship till like I think like November or something like that.
Oh wow, okay.
It's a long wait for it.
That is a long wait. Yeah, of course you can. Fill it with popcorn there, that open area for popcorn. Yeah, I wonder what other part of it is actually practical, like has some practical use besides the viewfinder. Yeah, let me know when you get it, what you think, and if it does anything else that's cool or interesting. So that was this was put out by the by IMAX, right? So hence the IMAX camera, and then AMC also put out this Trojan horse, which is right, which is like which makes sense.
Chocolate horse.
Yeah.
It's like a giant
made by Willy Wonka. Yeah, Willy Wonka. Yeah, Wonka. Yeah, Willy Wonka. Yeah, it does look like a chocolate horse. I didn't even think about that. But yeah, you put the popcorn there in his gut. His gut pops open, and you can put popcorn in there. Like yeah, I didn't get either of these, but these are the only two that. And then they have like the tins, right? Your typical like actual buckets that are. I believe there are tins or plastic that you can put popcorn in, but these are the ones that are kind of. Unique shape, just something different, right? These are the ones that I kind of usually find more intriguing or interesting. Like the I got a couple of them myself that not from the Odyssey, but just popcorn buckets in general. I got like the bat signal from the Batman that actually lights up. Like that was cool. The alien one from Alien Romulus, I ordered that online. That one was cool. I got that one. Yeah, so I have a few of them. Oh, the Deadpool and Wolverine ones. I got a couple of those. The head pool and the baby pool. Those are really cool.
This one they did have at the theater when I went and saw this.
Yeah, same. Yeah, but it was, I didn't get it though.
But it was $80, and I was like, I don't want it that bad.
Oh, it was that much? Wow.
Yeah, it was $80 for it.
Yeah, because this is AMC here. Let's see. Oh, okay. Well, it's 70 here. Well, I mean, it's sold out, but. So I guess they upcharged it there at the theater.
Yeah, it looks like they had it for $79.95 or something like that.
Oh, I see. Let me go back to
the actual theater, but I was like, well, I'm gonna get the IMAX. Or at least I was gonna try to get the IMAX popcorn bucket at the time. They didn't have it, but I'm glad I got this because I didn't really want to pay that much for the Trojan horse one.
Yeah. Yeah, you looked down because again, yeah. So yeah, you're right. It's orders start shipping the week of November 9th. FYI, popcorn not included. So don't go in there expecting to get popcorn. Yeah. But I'll put those links in the description for reference. I mean, I know they're sold out, obviously, but just if you want to reference them and maybe if you're able to grab them somehow in the future. I know sometimes they go back in stock after a little bit
Hmm.
of time, but so you might get lucky. So just keep an eye out for those, and I'll put that in the description below again for reference. You just check them out, or if you're just curious, want to know more about them. Um, yeah. So other than that, was there anything else in particular you wanted to discuss? Because that pretty much wraps up our spoiler discussion here.
Um, I don't think so. At least not related to this
Okay.
particular movie, but just in general, like Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
That I read somewhere that I guess his next film, whatever it is, it's at least 3 years away, which is something that was kind of expected because it kind of
Oh,
had
okay.
been. They're usually like 3 to 4 years away. So we'll see what he does. Maybe he does that horror movie next, or maybe something completely
Yeah, I
different.
hope so. Oh man, I'd so be up for that, man. Yeah. Hopefully, yeah, that'd be cool if he just uses this as a as his transition or as like his gateway
Mhm.
into horror movies like this from this movie. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. That would be really cool. But yeah, like I said, that was all we had on our discussion of the Odyssey, Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. Thank you again for watching all. I appreciate your time. I do want to end on one note here in particular. I mentioned this, and this was repeated throughout the film, but the theme of the movie, Zeus's Law. I touched on this in the beginning of the discussion, towards the beginning of the video. Uh, just there's a lot of stuff going right now, negative in the world. I'm sure, as you all know. I don't have to like no breaking news or anything. So I I I think that one of the reasons Nolan wanted to put this out was to spread that message. And I don't know if that just was a coincidence or not, or if you've always. Well, no, I kind of take that. Well, I don't know, because I did hear that he's been wanting to make this movie for a
Mhm.
while,
Yeah.
but there's also like a timing thing, or maybe the technology. And then I don't know, maybe again maybe one of his motivations to get it out now was what's going on in the world. So I don't know. That's all speculation. Regardless, just the theme, Zeus's law, uh, just being kind, honoring, welcoming your guests, people who come in and just treating them with respect, humility, offering food and shelter as they go on. I just really love that theme. And I know that has to do more with hospitality, but on a general note, one that I try to live my life by that's similar is Confucius, right? We all know, we've heard about it. The golden rule: treat unto others as you want to be treated, or treat others as you want to be treated. I know I'm paraphrasing, and we've heard it different ways, but that's kind of related, right? And there's different forms of it in different practices, different beliefs, but ultimately just, be kind to one another. And that really resonated with me. And so I appreciate Nolan, if that was intention, for delivering the movie with that theme. And even if that was his intention, I hope others who watch this pick up on that, and that strikes something within them, right? That kind of motivates them, or that pushes them, or makes them consider that, because we definitely could use a lot more of that in the world here. So yeah, if you feel the same way, uh, I just got to give it to you. Yeah, much love to everyone. Much love to all there, my fellow cinephiles. Yeah, just please be kind to each other. And with that, I think I'll leave you with this, like Confucius. I think from now on, I think I'm going to use that phrase. Be golden, everyone. Just be golden, right? Just like Confucius says. So with that, take care. Have a good one all, and we'll see you at the movies. Later.